Welcome. Today we're going to explore how to use the Future Video V-Stqtion HD to do multi-channel streaming. Not only can we do streaming of more than one channel simultaneously, we can also be recording each of those channels together at the same time for safety backup. We'll be using the V-Stqtion Studio 8 system for our session today, which allows up to 8 video feeds to be recorded and streamed simultaneously. All the clips recorded today on the Studio 8 system are organized by projects, which are user-definable categories. So let me go ahead and get to our familiar record panel. And here we show our a slightly different profile that we've had previously. This might be an application where you want to have a conference and stream the conference to various viewers. The ability to have multi-channel streaming gives you an option to either use multi-camera in any particular session, or if you have multiple rooms of sessions going on, you can then actually stream each room independently through one master control panel. So you do have the ability then to see all up to 8 rooms. Maybe there might be 1 or 2 cameras per room, or you could have 8 different cameras set up. It's your option how you want to set up your cameras. It's always a good idea when you're doing streaming to have a backup, so we can also record each of the channels that we want to do. In this case, we're going to use 4 cameras. The profile that we've used today is the conference, as I mentioned, a profile. And as an example, we're using perhaps maybe it's a medical conference, you could set up each session as a name here. In this case, maybe it might be patient monitors, might be the general session, and then within each session you can have a topic such as blood pressure monitors, ECKG, so forth. So you can decide which of these, if you're doing as a topic and session that you want to define. If it were multi-room, then you would not be able to use this type of profile. You'd probably just have a overall session, maybe the date of the session, and rather than a topic, you could probably set it up to be which perhaps wing of the conference hall it might be. So there's a variety of different ways to set up this, but it's up to the administrator how you want to use your profiles. So let's go ahead and start, go back to our multi-channel streaming. To start multi-channel streaming, we have to do a setup. So we come down here, we set up are presented with our server screen, and this gives us several options. The first option is whether we want to use the capture device H.2.64 encoders, which are hardware encoders for our streams. This allows you to use or inherit the same settings that you use for recording that you would be using for streaming. It's a big advantage because it's simple. You don't have to worry about setting up more parameters than necessary, and you're pretty much ready to go. If you want instead to use your separate settings for your multiple streams, we can deselect that and then use the built-in Intel GPU of the V-Stqtion to do the encoding. And when you do this, then these 2 panels come live. You can select your video bit rate, and again, these apply to all the channel that you're going to be streaming, not individual ones. But this would be a global parameters. So you would have video bit rates for, if I set it 4 megabits, would apply to channels 1 through 8. You can also set the frame size and then you can also set the frame rate. In addition, whether you're using the GPU or you're using the capture hardware, you would decide what server type you want. In this case, our multi-channel streaming does point-to-point, so you can choose between RTSP or RTMP streaming. The HTTP options are here, and multicast are here. The other option is what port you want to stream over. If we're using RTSP, we put that in here. If we use RTMP, we put it into this field, and then whatever the HTTP port we want to use. Once that's set up, what we want to do then is activate our streamer. So I'm going to first of all go back, because it's easier to use our capture devices. The other advantage with capture devices, you can get up to 40 megabit per second on each channel, whereas with the GPU you can only go up to maybe 12 megabits per second. The other advantage, of course, with the hardware devices, I can set various bit rates. So if I wanted to stream each channel at a different bit rate, I could do that by going into my record settings and setting that. Whereas when you use the GPU, we're applying that globally to all channels. So let's go ahead to get the streaming engine ready. We hit activate, and this tells us we're not live yet, but we're activated because it's green. Now we can close our settings. And now let's go ahead, start our recording. We don't have to record it, but let's go ahead and start our recording. It's always a good idea. And then now we can decide what of the channels we want to stream. So if there's a particular session, if we're using multi-room and session 1 is going on, we start that session. Maybe a session 4 is going on, we start that session. And then we allow this to go on. Let's say an hour later, session 4 ends, but session 3 begins. We put that on. So we put all these on if we want, if all sessions are going on at the same time. Now, just for the receiver, let me bring back our settings again. This shows you the URL that you're going to give to the receiver. If you're using a local area network, then you would give them the local area network host, the V-Stqtion IP address, which is shown here, and the port. If you're using over the internet, then you would give them your IP address of the ISP that you're using, and the port number for that would also be shown here as 8550. Now in a multi-point you have session 0 through 7. So these would be part of the URL that would be given to your receiving audience. They could use VLC player, they could use QuickTime player. There are a number of network players that could be used for receiving the stream. So I'm going to close this. If we want to end all streams together, we just simply close, use a multi-stream button to close it. And if we wanted to perhaps maybe start them again, but maybe not channel 4, we would hit multi-stream and then activate. Now it's actually streaming. So that gives you some idea to how to do streaming and multi-channel streaming with the Future Video Studio 8. Thank you.